Hi all, welcome to Family Uh, welcome to Family I'm Dr. Fatima. I'm a family physician. Today we have Dr. Devi R. She's a renowned reproductive medicine specialist at Milan Hospital, Bengaluru. She studied MBBS from Government Medical College, Ernakulam, and she did further education, higher education from Bangalore. She did her MD in gynecology and obstetrics from St. John's Medical College, Bangalore, and her fellowship in reproductive medicine from Cloud9 Hospital, Bangalore. So today we are going to discuss with her. We're going to have a live chat with her about birth control measures. So why should we talk about birth control? Why should we be talking about birth control during this during this pandemic situation? Like all of us are bothered about all of us are just bothered about COVID-19 and vaccinations and its vaccination and how when vaccine will come to India. So, but the fact is that like in any crisis, during any crisis, the worst affected are the kids and the women of a society. So, like children, like how children are affected by not being able to go out, not being able to get vaccinations at the proper time, women are also equally affected because of the violence at home and probably because they don't have the right access to contraceptive measures at the right time. So amidst all these financial crises, they are facing crisis also to not to get proper contraceptive measures. So this is what we are going to discuss today. So we all know that there are measures to prevent pregnancies. Like there is a lot of options. There are a lot of options, like from pills to copper-T to condoms and many more. We all know that, but mostly people think that when they think about contraceptive, they think only about these three things, like condoms, oral contraceptive pills, and then you have the copper-T. But apart from that, actually there are a wide variety of options that you can have, and depending on your personal and medical condition, you can choose from them. Actually, we follow the cafeteria method. Like it's like going to a cafeteria or a hotel or a restaurant and just opening the menu and choosing what you really want to, or how you want to live your life. So contraception should always be a personal choice. There is no force in it. There should be no external pressure or force for a woman to choose or not to choose contraception. It is a basic personal or a basic human right for a woman to have access to contraception, as well as men. Men should also be aware of what contraceptives are available, and they should also be. It should be a collective responsibility if they are working together as a couple. So now off to Dr. Devi R. She will. So I've introduced her. She will talk a bit about her personal experience in the last 6 months during the lockdown, about how people approached contraception in the last 6 months. So Devi, Devi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Dr. Fatima. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Fatima, for welcoming me to your show. More than you said, the pleasure is actually mine to come to your show and sharing the information with people. So, as you said, yes, because of the pandemic, every sector of life has been affected in a good way or a bad way as a result of the pandemic. And as you rightly said, women and children are one of the worst hit due to the pandemic. And when it comes to women's and children's health, the sector which would have suffered a lot would probably be contraception, because there was already lots of unmet needs for contraception. So many people, as high as 1 in 8 women in developing countries, they want to avoid pregnancies, but they are not really able to use a contraception. So when we see why lack of availability or lack of access, lack of knowledge or false beliefs, which it covers a huge aspect of the reason why it is still not used the way it should be. And because of the pandemic, so many people who actually wanted access to contraception were not receiving it. So many people wanted to talk to doctors, they wanted prescriptions online. They couldn't really come to the clinic to start a contraception. So many, we have actually been able to help so many people by using the telemedicine platform. Yes, the pandemic has had a huge impact on contraception services in India per se. So to bridge this gap, even the FOXY, organizations like FOXY, the Federation of Obstetricians and Gynecologists Society of India, we have come up with artificial intelligence-based medical platforms like Ask Tanu. Ask Tanu, it is called. You can actually avail their services over any social media platform like Facebook or WhatsApp or wherever, where you can actually ask questions. This AI based page will actually answer your questions, and at least they will guide you to a specialist, partly by telemedicine. And if a clinic visit is required, then so be it. So these are so definitely it has been hit. That doesn't mean we are just staying quiet on it. We are definitely making efforts to bridge this gap of unmet needs of contraception, which has been worsened by the pandemic. So we are happy to do that.
Oh, that's really a very big relief. Even I didn't know about this artificial intelligence based platform. Definitely, please we definitely have to share the link in the comments also. So next we'll have the questions regarding I've made some scenarios based on what people generally or routinely ask me. So I have around 11 scenarios and we'll discuss about that. So that will keep it very simple and easy to discuss. So first scenario is that a 24-year-old lady who is not planning to get pregnant any soon, and she has she's still nulliparous, that is she has not had any pregnancy yet. So what kind of what kind of contraception will you advise to that woman?
So this is the most common scenario of the young population in India, married or unmarried, not had children so far. So they must use a condom every single time they have intercourse. Why? Because condom is really easily available, it is really cheap, there are no side effects. But the problem with using only condom is that the failure rates are very, very high as 18%. Chances, if you don't use it properly, then the chances of condom failure is as high as 18%, which is really high. So that can result in so many unwanted pregnancies. So they really need another foolproof method of contraception. But in addition to using a foolproof method of contraception, they must continue using condom, because condom gives a unique advantage of preventing sexually transmitted infections like HIV, hepatitis B, pelvic inflammatory diseases, infections of the uterus, vagina, and all that. Yeah, so they must continue using condoms, but for contraceptive purpose, they need another foolproof method in addition to condoms. So there are different options which they can use. Again, as you rightly said, it's a cafeteria approach. So oral contraceptive pills is very safe, very efficient. The failure rates is as less than 0.1%. But yes, they have to go on taking a pill every night without forgetting to take the pills. Once they forget the pill for 3 days and all, then the efficiency comes down drastically. So they have to use another method for the next 7 days. So if they are not really compliant using the contraceptive pills, which is the safest method for them to use, they can use other methods also. Like there is a contraceptive patch which they can attach to their body. There is a contraceptive ring which they can put in the vagina. There are even contraceptive implants, which are rods of hormone releasing devices, which can be implanted beneath the skin, here, and all. So these are some of the methods, and there are some injectable oral contraceptive methods also, where progesterones and all, you can actually take an injection once in 3 months, like that. So these are very good methods which they can use. If they are compliant, of course, they can use contraceptive pills. If they are finding it difficult, all these methods are there, but all of these should be in association with using a barrier condom. So male condom or female condom or a diaphragm.
Okay, that's really very interesting, and again and again we like to tell people that it's very important that you continue the barrier contraception, because HIV, because prevents all these sexually transmitted infection. So next we'll go to the second scenario. I think everybody must have understood it well. So we'll go to the second scenario. Second scenario is a 24-year-old lady, almost young lady, young female, who has just delivered 2 months ago. So what kind of contraception would you advise to her?
So, to a young lady who has just delivered 2 months back, if she is breastfeeding, then she must be having something called lactational amenorrhea. So, when she is exclusively breastfeeding the child, that the child is receiving the nutrition only from her, only breast milk. That's called exclusive breastfeeding. In that scenario, she may not really ovulate for a period of 4 to 6 months when she is exclusively breastfeeding. But this is not foolproof. This is not fail-proof. She may ovulate. So she must use another contraception in addition to this. So lactational amenorrhea method has very high failure rates. So the safest thing which she can use is something as good as a copper T. So once she has delivered, 6 weeks is what it takes for her uterus to come back to a normal size. So after that, she can safely go ahead with a normal copper T insertion. That's a very safe method. Now, if she wants to take pills, there are 2 types of pills. One is a combined oral contraceptive pill. It's a combination of estrogen and progesterone hormone, but it may affect the quality and the quantity of the breast milk. So she cannot take this for the first 6 weeks if she is breastfeeding. So after the first 6 weeks, once her breastfeeding is fully established, she can still continue taking, she can start taking this combined oral contraceptive pills. There is something else called progesterone only pills. It's only, as the name suggests, it's just progesterone, which she can use even from the beginning. Even when her breastfeeding is not fully established, she can safely take progesterone only pills. But the disadvantage is that she has to take 1 small pill every single day. She should not miss any pill. So that is definitely there. Condoms, yes, she can continue using condoms for all the benefits which the condom provides, but condom has a very high failure rate. So only condom should not be the method. It should be along with one of these things also.
Yeah, that is very important, and I'd also like to stress on that don't trust lactational amenorrhea, and stop or refrain from using contraceptives during your immediate postpartum period. There are lots of people who conceive immediately, and it can be a very big difficulty for the doctor and also for the patient personally. So
one more thing I just would like to add here is that many people ask, can I take the injectable contraceptives immediately after childbirth? So the problem is, yes, you can. Theoretically, you can. But the problem is, if you continue taking the injectable contraceptive again in the first 6 weeks, 2-3 months after the delivery, your bleeding pattern can be a little irregular. This injectable contraceptives, one of the disadvantages of this is breakthrough bleeding in between. So it may itself produce or present as an irregular bleeding pattern. So it can be mistaken for a heavy bleeding after childbirth. So lots of confusion could arise there. So we don't really advocate using an injectable contraceptive in the first 6 weeks at least after the delivery.
Okay. So my third scenario was almost similar, about a lady who is breastfeeding, and I think you have mentioned everything clearly. So we'll go to the fourth scenario. I think we have mentioned everything. No, there is nothing more during breastfeeding. You just have to wait, and once breastfeeding is established, we can start an oral contraceptive or continue with the copper T and add on with the barrier contraceptive. So we'll go to this fourth scenario. So fourth scenario is a lady who had an episode of ectopic pregnancy. Ectopic pregnancy, if you don't know, ectopic pregnancy is like, normally we know pregnancy happens in the uterus. Sometimes implantation can occur in outside the uterus, and that is called as ectopic pregnancy. So during ectopic pregnancy, if there is a history of ectopic pregnancy, what kind of contraception will you recommend, Dr. Devi?
Rather than answering this, I would like to tell what kind of contraception will I avoid in this lady. So ectopic pregnancy is a tubal pregnancy. So something which I would want to avoid in this lady would be a copper T. Yeah. So there is slightly more risk of tubal pregnancy when we use copper T. So if she is a lady who has already had a ectopic pregnancy, that wouldn't be my first choice. Don't take this as a take home message that copper T leads to ectopic pregnancy, which is so untrue. Copper T will not lead to ectopic pregnancy. Copper T prevents pregnancies, but if a pregnancy happens despite your copper T inside your uterus, there is more chance of it being a tubal pregnancy than inside the uterus. That's all it is. Copper T will not cause ectopic pregnancy. So I would, if she already had an ectopic, that means she's predisposed to ectopic. So that I wouldn't really choose that as my first choice. So any other method is quite okay for her. Whatever we whatever we mentioned now, barrier she should be using. Oral contraceptive pills she can safely use. She can use all the implants or patches or vaginal rings, injectable contraceptives, everything she can use.
So we'll go to the fifth scenario. Fifth scenario is a lady, young lady, 24-year-old, who is on treatment for SLE. So what kind of contraception will you recommend, Dr. Devi?
So the problem with these people with autoimmune diseases like an SLE is we are very skeptical about using hormonal pills in these patients simply because of the fact that they may be more predisposed to cardiovascular or heart related or blood clotting related, blood clotting in the heart, blood clotting in the big blood vessels, blood clotting in the brain, stroke, all those complications are more in these patients. And I may be pushing this patient to more of those complications when I use hormones in them. So in an SLE patient, my first choice would be using a simple copper T, not a hormonal copper T. So there are two types of devices which you can put into your uterus. One is copper T, which just releases a little bit of copper every day and prevents pregnancies. Another type of intrauterine device is something called a progesterone releasing intrauterine device. There is a brand name called Mirena, which is very commonly used. That one releases progesterone. So my first choice in this particular patient would be a plain copper T. Any hormone I would be very skeptical about using. But if she's a very well-controlled SLE, no complications at all, no blood clotting at all, then with slight risk, taking risk-benefit analysis, when the benefit is more than the risk, we may consider using very low-dose contraceptive pills also. But the safest to use is copper T in this lady.
Yeah, that is, copper T is very cheap and easily available in India, and it doesn't have much contraindications, and it is safer in all these women with, probable autoimmune conditions too, right?
Yes, actually speaking, any medical condition you take, most of the medical conditions, the safest thing to use is that benign simple copper T.
Yeah. But there are lots of
it's got hardly any contraindications.
Yeah.
It's very cheap, easily available in your PNCs also.
Easy to
available in the government. Yeah, it's very good also. But one of the most misunderstood contraceptives probably so far is copper T. People have a feeling that it will cause pain, it will cause infection, it will cause bleeding and all that. Yes, the problem is copper T has many advantages and disadvantages. I'll just take a little bit time to elaborate a little bit on copper T here. So because it's one among the most misunderstood benign, as I said, contraceptive methods. Copper T is very efficient, very, very efficient, cheap. Once inserted, it can be kept for, there are certain types of copper Ts which can be kept for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, up to 10 years also there is a copper T which can be kept. So that way you put it and send a patient across to her village. You don't have to worry about unintended pregnancies for another 5 years' time. And as soon as you take out the copper T, the female can get pregnant the very next month itself. So these are the advantages. Now, the copper T can result in a slightly more bleeding in your first 3 months after inserting the copper T. But it can be easily tackled by tablets. people get disappointed seeing this extra bleeding in the first few months, and then they write off copper T. That's so unfair, I would say. And slightly more pain during periods can be there during your after for the first few months after the copper T. That also can be tackled by simple tablets, and it all, trust me, it all comes down in the subsequent months. And copper T, if inserted properly and if your hygiene is proper, it will not. It's very less likely to cause severe infections and all that. It in itself, causing severe infections is not very common. Slightly more risk of infection cannot be ruled out, but if your socioeconomic conditions or if you keep your personal hygiene and other measures, if you continue using the condom and all that, then chances of infection is very less with a copper T.
So we have the sixth scenario. This is a 40-year-old lady, quite in the middle-aged lady with coagulation disorder. She's on oral anticoagulants, and what kind of contraception will you advise for this lady, Dr. Dev?
So again, this is the common scenario these days, because people going a little towards their older age, they have blood clotting disorders. They are on anticoagulants to thin their blood. Again, I would say what I wouldn't use in this patient. I'm not at all comfortable using a hormone contraceptive in this patient, simply because of the fact that I may be pushing her for more and more blood clotting because of the contraceptive, hormone contraceptive use. So she may be predisposed to more of, again, blood clotting in the brain or heart or vessels, stroke, etc. So the safest thing to use in this particular patient also would be a copper T. Yeah. So and if it is a very well controlled coagulation disorder where she's on anticoagulants and she's very well controlled, she doesn't have any history of clotting at all in the very long time, then progesterone only pills and all is something which can be considered if other things cannot be used, like a copper T. That is again a risk versus benefit analysis which we should do. So in this cafeteria approach, actually what we do is we open the menu and put it in front of you, and we tell you about the pluses and minuses, advantages and disadvantages of each, and we help you choose the right method which is suiting you. Then you choose the method, and then we follow you up over a period of time, 3 months, 6 months, like that, to see if this is suiting you. So if it suits you, you continue the same thing, and we keep replenishing your prescription based on your scenario. And if you find that particular contraceptive method not suiting you, then we suggest an alternative to you. So this is the cafeteria approach.
So next scenario is the number 7 scenario. So this is a lady with bipolar affective disorder. So she has, occasional symptoms. She's on treatment, but still she has occasional symptoms. What kind of contraception will you advise for her?
So in all these scenarios, actually, any scenario which you have mentioned now, barrier contraceptives can safely be used. But the problem with barrier is that the high failure rates are there for a barrier contraceptive. So in this scenario also, the something which can be very safely used is a plain copper T, not a hormonal one, but there is another type of hormonal contraceptive called the Mirena, I told you. So in many scenarios that can be safely used because the release of hormones is local. It comes only to your uterus and surroundings, so that can be used. But yes, copper T would be the safest. But if it's an older lady in an older age group and completed family, you could even think about permanent methods of sterilization and all that in her. But that would be the last option. We have methods. Copper T is the method of choice for her.
Yes, that is another, feather in the cap of copper T. So we'll go to the next question. Next scenario, that is the 8th scenario. The question is about 40-year-old lady who has a history of cancer breast and she has undergone treatment for that. What kind of contraception will you advise for her?
So again, in this, in most of the scenarios, medical scenarios which we are discussing, rather than what we can use, we should concentrate on
Yes, exactly.
conveying the message of what we can't use. So, hormones is something which I wouldn't want to use in this particular patient. Oral contraceptive pills, progesterone only pills, all that is something which I wouldn't want to use in this particular patient. But what I will be happy with using is again a copper T and Mirena, that progesterone releasing intrauterine device can be very safely used in this patient. Again, injectables and all, I will be very skeptical about using in this patient. And yes, barrier with everything, barrier should be there to prevent infection, simply because of the fact that it prevents infections, even to reducing incidence of cervical cancers and all that. It is important.
What about what about vaginal rings for this patient? Will it work? Is it safe, or is there any harmful effects for
So
vaginal
if
rings?
vaginal rings also, it could be safe because of the fact that it releases the hormones only locally. It doesn't release it into the bloodstream. So again, in this scenario, we have to do a risk versus benefit analysis, even if any systemic absorption is there or not. But yes, injectable oral is a complete no-no, but locally acting methods like a Mirena or a ring, this is something called a Nuva ring, which is recently launched and it's becoming very, very popular these days. It is a combined hormone releasing ring, means this ring releases estrogen and progesterone, which is put into the vagina. The cost of this ring is roughly 600 to 700 rupees. One ring will last for 3 weeks. So 3 weeks you will keep the ring in your vagina. 1 week will be ring-free period. You take it off. And in that 1 week, you will get a bleeding. Then another 3 weeks ring, 1 week off, like that. And even if some irritation is there and all, you should not be taking this ring out of your body for more than 2 hours. So if you have kept it outside for more than 3 hours, for the next 7 days, you have to use an alternative contraception like a barrier. It can be safely used, yes.
Now that is a very good information. Most people don't know that there is something like Nuva, like this vaginal ring. And
Nuva is the brand name which I should not be taking in any platform like that, but it's becoming very popular.
Yeah, this vaginal ring is there and it's getting more popular, but people don't know about it much. At least in Kerala, people don't know much about it, and it's really a new information for me that we shouldn't take it out for more than 2 hours. That the fact that if you take it out for more than 2 hours, then you have to practice another method for the next 7 days. That was a new information for me. Thanks for that. So we'll go to the next scenario. That is the 10th scenario. There are only 11 scenarios. Don't worry. We are just coming to the end of it. So the 10th scenario is about emergency contraception. So what kind of contraception? Emergency contraception. There are lots of emergency contraceptions available. What would you advise, or how long? What are the failure rates, and within how many hours should you practice it?
Thanks for asking this, because emergency contraception is my all-time favorite, because this is the topic on which I get maximum queries. I'm sure you would also be getting so many questions.
Every doctor will be getting about it.
Lots of questions to all the doctors about emergency contraception. So please understand, emergency contraception is only for emergencies. It is not your regular daily day-to-day contraceptive device. It is only for emergencies. When I say emergencies, it's something like a one-time intercourse, or the condom has broken, or situations like rape or something like that. You have been using a contraceptive and you have just missed one for a day or something like that. So only for emergencies, you please use this. Or in a scenario where you couldn't use anything else at all and you don't have anything in hand, then just use it. That's all it is. But don't make it a habit to keep on using emergency contraceptive throughout, because you know what this is? Emergency contraceptive is a progesterone, and it's a safe progesterone. That means even if you become pregnant after using the emergency contraception, it is not going to harm your baby, most probably. That is what it is. And the failure rates are also high. So if you use the emergency contraception within around 12 hours after the intercourse, so that is why it's called the morning after pill. After the intercourse, in the morning you have the pill at least. So within 12 hours, if you use it, the failure rates, the success rates are as high as 95%. But if you would use it at 72 hours, that success rate of it preventing a pregnancy comes down to close to 50%. So use it as early as possible. It can be taken as a single pill within 72 hours, preferably as early as possible. There is another method where we can actually use it as 2 pills 12 hours apart, the first pill starting as early as possible within 72 hours. In a scenario where you don't have access to this thing, the emergency contraception or the infamous I pill and all that, you can even use your oral contraceptive pill in a high dose as a repeat dose 12 hours apart for as an emergency contraception. There is also one more interesting thing in this. You who don't have an access to emergency contraception and it's already 3-4 days after the unprotected intercourse, please go to your practitioner and put a copper T in. So after the unprotected intercourse, up to 5 days also you can use copper T as an emergency contraception, and this continues as your long-term contraception. So that's something which is very useful and people can use it. And it can be used at any point of time during your period cycle.
So thanks for that information. I think emergency contraception is, the topic which everybody wants to know about.
And everybody, including young people, lots of teenagers and all, they must know about this, because even if you don't have access to anything, please use it, but don't make it a habit to keep on using it. The take-home message is that please resort to a fail-proof normal contraception, and only in cases of emergencies, if you don't have anything, please use an emergency contraception in order to avoid unintended pregnancies and abortions.
Yes. So we have come to the last scenario. The last scenario is maybe people might cringe at looking at this. This is about what contraceptive advice would you give to parents or adolescents, because in India we can't give advice directly to a patient who is less than 18 years without a chaperone or a parent. So what kind of advice would you give to an adolescent, or what kind of contraceptive advice would you give to an adolescent? Because right now lots of teenage pregnancies are all coming up. So what advice would you give, Dr. Devi?
I'm so grateful that you've brought up this topic, because we do see lots of teenage pregnancies, unintended pregnancies, and people going through abortions. And this problem is much more in rural India. And it's a grave problem. So we must teach our children, our teenagers, to practice safe sex. So when I say safe sex, it should include condom for sure. But as I told you, condom has a very high failure rate. So they need a proper contraceptive, not just condom. At least condom should be there. But something which can be very safely used, they can use an oral contraceptive pill. But they are teenagers. People, I'm not being judgmental about teenagers, but adults themselves can be very fussy about taking a pill daily. So think about a teenager. So there you must provide them opportunities to use these long-acting contraceptives like the implants or the patches or the vaginal rings. Even in an adolescent, you can use a copper T. There are small forms of copper T which are specially designed for adolescents too. Injectable contraceptives, where the teenager has to take injections only once in 3 months. It can be used, but the problem with using some of the injectable contraceptives in a teenager is that there are injections like DMPA and all, they can affect the bone density. The bone density may come down. So a teenager cannot go on using the injectable varieties of contraceptives for a long term. So that is there.
So does oral contraceptive pills reduce bone mineral density?
No.
No. Only the injectable ones.
They can safely use oral contraceptive pills. Only the DMPA, the depot medroxyprogesterone acetate, is what is proven to reduce the bone mineral density. Not only in adolescents, even in adults for long-term use, that is one of the side effects which we see. So that is one of the drawbacks of that particular one.
And are these smaller varieties of copper T available? Like like the adult ones? Are they
In
available?
India, in India, I have not been able to get hold of one. And also in India, to put a copper tea into a nulliparous lady itself is very difficult. Then talk about a teenager.
Yeah.
But it is widely used in Western countries, at least. They use this even for adolescents.
Yeah. And like I think we learned that it is almost relatively contraindicated to put in an nulliparous woman, no? That
It's not
copper-
really. It is not relatively contraindicated. It's always a analysis of risk versus benefit.
Okay.
So there is no contraindication to putting it into an nulliparous. The popular belief is that you should not put it into an nulliparous. It leads to infections. It leads to infertility. No. So under aseptic precautions, if you keep it and you follow safe sex practices, then it's as safe as anything else. At least it is better than the teenager going through a septic abortion and ending up with infertility later.
Yes, sure. That is a very big chance of having septic abortion for teenagers, especially they will
Yes,
try to mess
yes.
up with handle the situation themselves and go meet a quack and all that, and lots of cases we see. It's very dangerous.
We should do a live on septic abortions.
Yes, septic abortions. Yeah, that is a
Abortion,
very relevant
safe
topic.
abortions. Yes.
Yeah, so thank you, Devi. This was really very informative. I got so many new information. I think everybody who watched it will definitely be enlightened with this live video chat. So to put,
I just would like to add something more here, if I may interrupt you.
No, it's okay.
I just want to brush upon the permanent methods of contraception also. So, when I am talking about that, these are the tubal ligation, cutting your tubes and all that. So, when we have so many efficient, good, long-acting methods of contraception, like the copper T or the Mirena or the implants and all that, then these days, apparently the long method like sterilization and all should become less popular, but it's not like that in India. Still, the majority of the contraceptives which are used in India are tubal ligation and vasectomy is lesser only, but tubal ligation it is. So it wouldn't be justified if we just don't speak about tubal ligation. So yes, that is the long-acting method which is there. So you can opt for it after the delivery immediately. If it's a cesarean section on table, you can opt for it. If it is a normal delivery, as early as 2 or 3 days after the delivery, you can opt for it. Or if you want to do it later, 6 weeks later, you can opt for it. Or 3 months later, you can opt for it. Or once your child is 3 or 4 years old, then also you can opt for a tubal ligation, laparoscopic tubal sterilization. And don't forget the men. We are talking about vasectomy. Vasectomy is a very simple procedure which can be done with very mild anesthesia, local anesthesia. And there are places in India where men are getting incentives for doing vasectomies. So men are also important, right? So this is all contraception is for men also. Another thing which men can use apart from condoms is spermicidal gels. Spermicidal gels can be used, but efficiency is very less. Failure rates are very high, but something is better than nothing. So these are the things which I want to stress upon. And yes, natural methods of contraception are there where you avoid intercourse between your 9th day and your 18th day. But the failure rates are really, really high. Then there are people who look at the basal body temperature and then try to predict their fertile period and then do it. There are people who actually look at their cervical mucus nature and then try to predict it. These all are not bad, but it is at least using something is definitely better than using nothing. But natural methods, only using natural methods should not be the way forward when we have so many good things in hand now.
Especially when we have things like copper tea and all that, right?
Yes, yes.
So that was a very insightful and informative session for me, and I'm sure that all of you who must have watched it would have definitely enjoyed it. Would have found it very interesting and informative. So we are coming to the end of the session. So to sum it up, I hope you must have had a very superficial idea about different types of contraceptives and what should and that this is a personal choice to have a contraceptive, and this should be discussed with you. You should have an open discussion with your partner, with or without your partner. It should be a personal choice. You should have an open discussion with your practitioner and decide on what kind of contraceptive you should use. Definitely practice safe sex. Always remember that it is ideal to use a barrier contraceptive to prevent sexually transmitted infections like HIV, HPSAG, HCV, and other pelvic inflammatory diseases. So definitely practice safe sex. Another more important thing is that spread this information to others. Exchange information, and like if you have watched this video, talk to your family members and your sons and daughters what contraception is. Have an open discussion about contraception, and stay safe, stay healthy. I hope you had a nice time watching our video. Thanks for watching. Bye. Thank you, Devi. Bye.
Thank you, Dr. Fatima. Bye.